My name's Chris Crone and I love growing money. Today on my channel, I've created an episode to share with you the 3 most important rules for building wealth in your world. I will never forget the moment where I was sitting in the living room of my first house. My wife and I 3 months earlier had just bought our second house, and it was her idea. We were sitting on the computer at first, and she said, Chris, with all this extra money our real estate's making and we're living for free, how much money do we want to make before you can quit your job? And we moved into the living room, and I'll never forget what it was like to move around and have this dialogue. And finally we ended up on the couch, and we decided if we had 10,000 residual dollars a month, I could quit my job. You probably have a goal for financial freedom. You probably have some kind of goal if you're watching this, or if you are a subscriber to my channel, which you are, and you would correct that right now if you weren't. If you want to be financially intelligent, and if you want to learn what billionaires and millionaires know about money, that's what I'm here to share with you today. And I want to share with you that if you got your financial goal, then I'm going to share with you the 3 rules that'll help you grow your money and help you grow your wealth. Because ultimately, here's the coolest thing about society we live in. Look at our day and age. No matter where you are in the world watching this video, the reality is there's never been such an abundance. There's never been such an opulence, and there's never been so much opportunity because of technology. I mean, think about it. You're joining me somewhere in the world right now. If you rung the bell, joining me every day as I'm sharing my biggest wealth rules and my biggest wealth lessons on how you can become financially free. It's easier today than it ever was. Even 13 years ago, when I became financially free and I quit my job and I met my goal, and it took me 4 years, I could do it today in a fraction of the time because of all the resources that I'm sharing with you. So, rule number 1 to grow your wealth. You've heard me say it probably before, but I want you to ask yourself, do you know it or are you doing it? You have got to pay yourself. And we always say pay yourself first, because here's the deal. I want you to understand this basic principles. You're going to work and you're earning money, and then what you do is you're trading your time to get that money. You got to reverse the polarity of that. You have got to get your money to work for you. How do you do that? Well, you got to start by paying yourself. Now, I know that you're thinking, but Chris, if I don't pay my rent or my mortgage, I'll get booted out. That would be bad, but it's not as bad as your real financial fate if you can't start following the rules of the wealthy. You might say, but Chris, if I don't pay my cell phone bill, they're going to shut it off. I'm like, great, go pay your cell phone bill, but don't pay it first. You've got to pay that later. Your first priority is to pay yourself. And when you're check to check, you got to pay yourself 5%. When you financially have figured out how to do that, then you're going to bust this out to 10%. And then when you have figured out how to get a side hustle, make a little extra money, create more of a gap, I need you to get this ultimately to a minimum of 20% and never back down. Now, you're sitting here thinking, but Chris, that is so much money. You want me to take 1/5 of my paycheck, 20% of my paycheck, and set it aside for my future? Dude, that is asking so much. No worries. You do not have to follow my advice. You can just keep doing what you're doing. And then when you get to the end, or you get replaced by somebody else and no one else really wants to hire you, and you're old and then you have no money, then you can become nasty and mean and crotchety like so many people do. And society has figured out with medical ways to keep you alive for another 40 years. So your world's gonna suck times 100. Awesome. Or you can freaking listen up right now, which is, do this. I don't care if it's hard. Don't build a story around that. You got to become proud of this. You got to make this the thing that you do no matter what. You 18-year-olds that are like, I don't know if I want to go to college, or if I do, what's my financial future? Listen, this is what you do. Rule number 2, what do you do with the money once you start saving it? Here's the cool part. You invest it. I just want to talk to you about this for just a moment. We know that we're here all about different kind of investments, but primarily what? Real estate. I want to tell you why. I hold a grudge against 401ks, IRAs, the stock market, because these investments typically don't do better than 4, 5, 6, or 8% in the long run. They can have good years, but look at what's happening in the stock market right now. And the reality is you've got inflation running at over 3%. So if you're earning 6% on average, subtract 3%, now you're earning a big whopping 3. When you take whatever you're saving and you grow it at 3% over 30 years, you're not going to like what the financial calculator says at all. So instead, we got to get into a game where we've got access to investments that have way more upside. And you know what that is for me, right? It's real estate. I mean, where else can you go to do a tiny little single family deal where you can make $50,000 to $100,000 per house over a short period of time? That's pretty amazing, right? I mean, remember my goal right here. I want to make $10,000 a month. How did I do that in 4 years? For me, it came down to being able to count to 25. 25 single family homes over 4.5 years, created a $12,000 residual income, actually exceeded my goal, and it created a net worth for me of $1.6 million. And I love real estate because it means doing the least amount of transactions, if you do it right, the least amount of work, and you make the most money. Now, on my deals, I have a rule, which is I need my investments to be producing at least a 15% annual return. Most of mine are producing 20 or 25% every day as I'm getting these deals in homes. But I want you to have standards. Now, I need you to understand something. When you pay yourself first, some of that money does need to go into a security bucket, right? You need to make sure you keep yourself safe. And then the rest of it, we're going to invest. And this type of investment, is it risky? Of course it is. There's going to be risk because it has the opportunity to grow. But the bigger risk is doing what? Nothing, which is what most people by default opt in for. So I want you to invest that, and then I want you to get to the third and most important step. This is my favorite. Albert Einstein said that the most powerful financial instrument ever discovered was compound interest. It means that if I make 15% this year, then next year I'm going to make 15% again, plus my growth of 15% from the last year. In the third year, I'm going to make 15% again, but I'm going to be adding to it last year's 15% and the 15 before, and actually they start adding up and creating this. It's called an exponential curve. Let me share with you what that looks like in real estate. Let's say that I put money out there and I bought 2 homes. I scrimped, I saved, I paid myself, I invested it, I put it in 2 good deals. 5 years, guess what my goal is on those 2 homes? To sell them and turn it into what? 4 homes. Now, if in 5 years, as I'm doubling my investments, if every 5 years I'm doing that successfully, guess what happens? 2 becomes 4. 5 years later, 4 becomes 8. 5 years later, 8 becomes 16. 16 becomes 32. 32 becomes 64. And it gets out of hand, which frankly, that's what we're trying to do, because each home adds to my residual income and each home builds my wealth super powerfully. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, all right, Chris, I got my financial goal. I'm listening to you on your rules, but man, there's a lot to think of. And where do I actually find my investments? And how do I actually get it to compound? Well, I got good news for you. I've written several books. I'm a best-selling author, but I recently wrote a book that I designed to be as short as possible. Like, I removed all the fluff and I said, you know what? Let's give you the Cliff Notes version to how you build wealth as rapidly as possible. And I'm assuming you're starting with nothing, or I'm assuming you're starting with very little. All you got to do is click the link. You can download my book for free. And as a bonus, a member of my team will contact you and do a free consultation. They'll basically take their feet, step into your shoes and say, hey, if I were you, you got the book now. But more importantly, what are your first steps? You're going to get that out of the book, but I'm also going to have one of my trained experts step in and actually share with you step 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is how you would get to $1 million. This is how you create wealth. I hope that's useful for you. And hey, if you're not, make sure you are a subscriber, and we'll catch you on tomorrow's video.